In my last video, I went over the Kalam Cosmological Argument, which is one of the arguments used in the case for the existence of God. And in this video, I'll be presenting and responding to 4 objections that are typically made against the Kalam. So without further ado, let's get into it. Objection 1. If everything that exists has a cause, then what is God's cause? To start off, I want to say that this objection is not made by anyone who truly understands the Kalam argument. Nowhere in the Kalam does it state that everything has a cause. Instead, it says that everything that begins to exist has a cause. This premise says nothing about things that do not begin to exist, and as such, it leaves open the possibility that there could be things that didn't begin to exist and that don't have causes. Now, to some people, phrasing the first premise this way almost seems like special pleading. In other words, it seems like the proponent of the argument is just slapping on the phrase begins to exist because God is typically thought of as not having a beginning, and so he can just get a get out of jail free card. But this isn't special pleading for God. In fact, this premise alone leaves open the possibility that the universe could be eternal and therefore not necessarily have a cause. However, it's the support for the second premise that the universe began to exist, which casts doubt upon the universe being eternal. Objection 2. The argument does nothing to show that a personal God who cares about us exists, let alone that the God of any particular religion exists. I hear this brought up all the time, and I'm just a little bit annoyed by it, because almost always the proponent of the Kalam already knows this. The Kalam Cosmological Argument isn't intended to prove that a personal God exists or that the God of any particular religion exists. It's only intended to show that there's a cause to the universe, and as such, it must have certain properties. It must be spaceless, timeless, immaterial, powerful enough to create the universe, and some have argued personal, though in my last video I said those are less certain arguments. Now, of course, there are key properties of God that this argument doesn't prove, like that God is all-knowing or morally perfect. But this argument is typically just one out of many arguments in a cumulative case for theism. No one argument is used to prove every single aspect of God, but rather different arguments are used to prove different aspects of God. Objection 3. Things begin to exist without a cause all the time. According to quantum physics, extremely small virtual particles are constantly popping in and out of existence randomly, without any kind of known cause. Now, I don't want to give the impression that I'm incredibly knowledgeable about quantum physics, because in all honesty, I don't know that much about quantum physics, but I can't help but echo what others have said in response to this, namely that these particles don't come into existence out of absolutely nothing. Rather, they come into existence out of the quantum vacuum, which is a sea of fluctuating energy. To quote David Albert, a theoretical physicist and philosopher at Columbia University, the fact that virtual particles can pop in and out of existence over time as those quantum fields rearrange themselves is not a whit more mysterious than the fact that fists can pop in and out of existence over time as my fingers rearrange themselves. And none of these poppings, if you look at them right, amounts to anything even remotely in the neighborhood of a creation from nothing. Objection 4. The first premise is based on the fallacy of composition. It assumes that because everything in the universe has a cause, therefore the universe as a whole has a cause. The fallacy of composition is a logical fallacy in which you say that because every part of something has a certain property, therefore the thing as a whole has that same property. For example, every atom in an elephant is light. Therefore, the elephant itself is light. You can see the problem here. I don't know how this objection was ever even created, but for some reason it seems to be really popular. But nowhere in the Kalam is it argued that because everything in the universe has a cause, therefore the universe as a whole must have a cause. The reason for thinking that whatever begins to exist has a cause is because 1, something cannot come into being out of absolutely nothing, and 2, if things could come into being out of absolutely nothing, then we should see all sorts of things constantly popping into existence from absolutely nothing. But we don't see that, which points again to the fact that something cannot come into being from nothing. This seems to be another objection that only arises when people don't fully understand the argument to begin with. So that's all for this video. I hope to have shown that these 4 objections to the Kalam don't hold up when placed under scrutiny. And of course, I'm not perfect. If you think I made an error in my reasoning, then without a doubt leave a comment or post a video response. I don't look into this stuff just so I can try and beat others in an argument. I look into this stuff because I want to know the truth, and if I'm making an error in my reasoning, I want to know. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to share this video with your friends and subscribe to my channel. And if you feel like you have something to say, leave it in the comments. In my next video on arguments for and against the existence of God, I'll be looking at some more objections to the Kalam Cosmological Argument, which all revolve around the fallacy of equivocation. So stay tuned for that video, and I'll see you then.